Hello and welcome to another edition of Global South Perspective. I'm Maureen Nkandu. Now, recently I was drawn to an interesting article on LinkedIn by Sakwa Ingolo, a regional business development manager for East Africa. And Sakwa's article asked a very interesting question. Why are wealthy Africans investing abroad while foreigners are rushing to invest in Africa? And on the show today, we want to unpack this issue. And we're joined on the line by Sakwa himself. Hello, Sakwa. Welcome to Global South Perspective.
Thank you so much also for hosting me on Global South Perspective.
So, Sakwa, the obvious question, as you put it in your article, why are
Yes.
wealthy Africans choosing to invest abroad? What is the incentive?
Yeah. Most Africans are preferring to invest abroad and in foreign countries, and majority of them, when I ask them why, they had different reasons. And one of the reason is the risk perception and stability in foreign countries, because many elite Africans see overseas markets like the US and UK and UAE as offering greater political and economic stability. Others will, like I told you, talk about risk perception and stability. Others will want to wealth preservations for their families and everything. Europe countries and the US, they offer strong and financial um, structures for them. So they prefer to invest in those countries for different reasons.
So, in what form are these investments?
It all depends. Others, they want to invest in real estate majorly. Others, when they want to invest in private equity. When I talk to some of them, they also they have a structure where they want to invest in education linked investment, where they buy real estates close to top tier universities, for example, in London, UK, and everything.
So, apart from the information that you were given by a number of people that you spoke to in your research, when you were conducting your research, most Africans,
Mhm.
you've talked about
Yes.
some risk assurances as well as better infrastructure. Did they
Yes.
explain to you rather, or did your research find out why they would rather not improve on these aspects on the continent so that they invest instead in Africa?
Most of them, they don't trust the African governance system and the law. The law is not so strong here, so they prefer to invest outside their countries rather than they invest outside they prefer investing in the foreign countries compared to their own countries because of poor governance in Africa.
So when you talk about the law, which law would you be referring to?
Depending on political and regime change, the taxes might change. So there's political instability. That's why they prefer investing where there's political stability instead of Africa, where politics is majorly influences the laws when there's a regime change.
Now, just one thing I want to clarify also. Is it that
Mhm.
most of these wealthy Africans don't want to invest in other African countries or just in their own countries?
Some not necessarily they don't want to invest in their own country, but in Africa, there are some countries they also invest in. They good a good example that I can give in Africa is South Africa, where at least some of these wealthy Africans prefer to invest in Africa. Because you have seen South Africa, I think, is also doing so well in terms of their law structures in terms of for business and investment.
Now, your article then also says that foreigners, non-Africans,
Mhm.
see Africa, the African continent, African countries, as a good destination for investment, which is really ironic.
Yes.
Why is that so?
uh, Africa, I think, is one of the fastest growing economies and has a robust youth percentage in Africa. And also, the foreigners also want to be the entry market, they want to be like the first. So when they enter the market they have an advantage before it becomes saturated with their brand or something they are launching.
But it's very curious to me. If I'm a
Mhm.
wealthy African, and I want
Mm-hmm.
investment. And I'm seeing
Yes.
that a lot of foreigners from China, from Germany, or from other parts of the world are coming to invest on the continent. Will I not try and see what it is that is attracting them to my continent and go that way as well?
I think the difference between the foreigners who are investing in Africa and African investing in other countries is the foreigners investing in Africa, they are looking at a progress of 20 to 30 years. Whereas an African who is already wealthy, they want something, they are in a country that already has a stability. So they are looking maybe at a short term. So for example, in the US, maybe they are looking at if they're doing an investment there, they're looking at 5 to 10 years, and their business will, through that whole period, it will be stable. But in Africa, the investors here, they are looking for a business that will be profitable in 20 to 30 years to come. So now that's why you find that most Africans are now not so investing in agri or fintech or logistics in Africa. But the foreigners here, foreigners who are coming to invest, they are investing in those fintech, logistics, and agri business, and also mining.
Could we also say
Compare.
that
Mhm.
it's also maybe just some kind of a psychological aspect where we tend to see that generally, I mean, I've reported on issues and development on the continent extensively, that even
Mhm.
locally we tend to give better incentives to foreigners than we tend to our own people. Could that also be a factor?
Yeah, also that is a factor because, for example, in Kenya, there's they give better tax incentive to foreigners. Also, they are also concentrating on special economic zones. There's also better PPP frameworks for foreigners. So I
PPP
think it's
being private-public partnerships, right?
yeah. With better private-public partnerships frameworks for foreigners. So I think on that and compared to the locals, they don't get the same. So I think now as much as you see now these special economic zones, tax incentives, public-private partnerships, they are attracting foreigners to come and do business in Africa compared to Africans who will want to do the same in Africa.
Now, I'm sure that your article has provoked a lot of interest from policymakers and government and so on. What
Yes.
what are they saying? Have you presented this finding widely? What is the point of discussion around reversing this trend, or at least improving investment of Africans in our own continent?
I think majority there of the people who discussed on my point, they wanted to have like a advocate for Africans government to at least bring in confidence and to have better access to better uh, system for Africans to trust the law structures and everything for so that Africans can also do investments here instead of going to do foreign to do investment in foreign countries.
And exactly how would that happen? How do you incentivize me? How do you bring in a better system that I can trust? What would your recommendations be based on your article?
What we're discussing here, the cause of all this is majorly influenced by poor governance and politics. So what I will add, in my own opinion, I will advocate for African politicians and the wealthy Africans to try and advocate for better governance and clean politics, and maybe perhaps people will start believing in their own countries.
Yeah. No, you've made
Yeah,
reference to poor governance several times in
yeah.
this interview. What exactly
Mhm.
would that entail? I mean, what would
Poor governance.
poor governance, of course, it's a general term. What does that mean?
Yeah,
And what would better governance be?
African leaders and the wealthy should advocate for good politics and the eradication of corruption because that's the major um, issue in Africa that is causing all these African elites not to trust their own governance in their own countries to invest, and so that it can make them invest their own countries.
But one would argue that corruption is not just perpetuated by Africans amongst Africans through intertrade and intra-investment. Even those who come from outside practice a lot of corruption. I can give you examples where there are reports of someone coming from a foreign country who wants, for instance, to invest in land. They want to purchase land. And because they can pay a bit more and pay a bit more under the table compared to a local person who also wants to do that investment, they're not able to get that land. So we cannot just say that corruption is an issue or a malice that is prevalent on the continent. It is also perpetuated by others who come in from outside.
Yeah, I always hold a different view on that because at the end of the day, we as Africans and everyone in Africa, if we tighten our laws on that prevent these practices of corruption, then those kind of things will not exist. But since we have like loopholes in our laws, makes now the foreigners to do deeper analysis. So they come having those analysis on what they are going to do in country X. So they are well prepared. And most of them, they have deep analysis and strong partners in Africa already. So when they come here, they know exactly what to do. But then whatever they do is also facilitated by us. So it's not specific, but if we have strong laws, then corruption will be reduced.
Well, very interesting points, Sakwa. We thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you for talking to us here on Global South Perspective. So there we have it, some insights there around why wealthy Africans prefer to invest outside the continent while foreigners are rushing to invest here in Africa. I've been talking to Sakwa Ingolo, who is a regional business management development expert for East Africa, talking to us from Nairobi. Join us again for another topic here on Global South Perspective. I'm Maureen Nkandu. Thank you for watching.